Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from, everyone. And welcome to Solidarity Through Sisterhood. This is a learning event that we're facilitating through the POWER Project, and POWER stands for Participation and Opportunities for Women's Economic Rights. You'll hear loads about this as we go through with this event. Before we get to the meat of it, a little bit of housekeeping. Not really sure if the slides are moving for others. There we go. So as you may have noticed, the event is being recorded and it'll be shared on Womankind's YouTube channel. Attendees, your mics and your videos are currently disabled, but if you don't want to be recorded, please feel free to use an anonymous name. Please do mute yourself during the presentation. This is as much for the presenters as anyone else. During the session, once the presentation segment is finalized, we will have some time for discussion and Q&A. So as we move through, please feel free as questions pop up in your head to submit the questions using the chat function at the bottom of the screen. Please do know that we may not have time to take all your questions, but we'd be happy to respond via email following the event. So please do direct questions if we don't get to yours to info@womankind.org.uk. And also when you type a question into the chat function, let us know if you're happy to ask the question yourselves, and we will enable your mics during the Q&A session if we are able to get to yours. If you have any Zoom related technical difficulties, two of our colleagues have named themselves as tech support. So please send your questions, direct them to tech support, and if it's within their gift, if they're able to, they will support you with that. For anyone with a hearing issue or auditory issues, please note that we have enabled the English transcripts on our side. In order for you to be able to enable it for your screen, you do have to click on the more, the three dots at the bottom. There's a screen grab that you can see. You click on the more and then click on the live transcript option. It's very important for us to create a safe and respectful environment, as I'm sure it is for you, and we think it's a collective responsibility. So if anyone notices any offensive, discriminatory, abusive behaviors, please do contact tech support. We will ourselves remain vigilant, and we do reserve the right to remove any such attendees from the event. And last but not least, we do welcome you to share information about the event, from the event via social media if anyone is active. So please do use the hashtag Solidarity Through Sisterhood, and we welcome you to tag Womankind, NAPE, and NAWAD where possible. If you're not already following us, our handles are there on the screen, and my colleagues have been putting it in the chat function as well. So the next bit really is for me to talk a little bit about the POWER project very quickly before I hand over. My name is Pumi Samaravira. I am a program manager at Womankind Worldwide. Womankind is a 30-plus-year-old women's rights organization based in London, UK. I am in my house right now. We partnered up with two organizations in Uganda to deliver the POWER project, the National Association of Professional Environmentalists, NAPE, the National Association for Women's Action in Development, NAWAD. And NAPE and NAWAD are the two key actors of the POWER project. POWER was funded by the UK government through UK Aid Match, so we are thankful to UK taxpayers for the support that they've provided. For those of us who know Uganda and those of us who don't, there's a map there showing us where the POWER project was implemented across 4 districts, 2 in the north, Nwoya and Amuru, and 2 in the west, Buliisa and Hoima. It is vast distances that this project has covered, especially in the effort to strengthen the eco-feminist movement and connecting up women across villages that are really, you have to travel quite a bit to get from one to the other. So the scope and the scale of the project is hopefully clear to you in terms of the map. Through the course of the presentation today, you will hear from partner representatives from NAPE and NAWAD, as well as Power Project stakeholders. They will introduce themselves as we go, and we'll also get a chance to see some videos so that more power stakeholder voices come to life. In terms of the agenda for the actual session, it's an hour and 15 minutes, which will fly by. And we will start off to give you a little bit of context of Uganda, as well as a very quick outline of the Power Project. The presentation will be structured around the 3 key outputs that the project was based around. The first around building women's knowledge, the second around creating alternative livelihood options, the third around supporting them to get legal advice if they've been affected by land rights violations. We'll talk about overarching learning and adaptations, of course, in the face of some challenges. That entire bit should take about 35 minutes. And then we have some time for the discussion and Q&A, which hopefully will be a bit more organic. And finally, we will end with a very quick call to action. Just note that all of this is documented in a really rich learning paper that is available online. And that learning paper is being summarized and translated into the local languages so that it can be cascaded within Uganda to various communities as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jenny from NAWAD to take it on from here.
Thank you, Piyumi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who has joined us. I'm Nachitende Jennifer. I work with NAWAD, and I've been working on the Power Project as a field officer in Northern Uganda. I'll take you through the context of women's land rights and related violations in Uganda. Ownership, access, and control over land lies at the center of power relationships in Uganda. The struggle for land and women's rights is deeply intertwined. Recent disputes over land have been due to land grabs, and land grabs come in due to corporate capture brought about by the oil and gas mining, and also crop production at large scale. Women depend on this land and purposefully for livelihood, and as well because they are the source of food security in their families. An estimated number of 400,000 women are marginalized in our project affected areas, and these are at a risk, and some have been displaced from their land. However, this number is expected to rise to over 1 million by 2023. Such issues are aggravated to low levels of women in leadership, social norms that perpetuate gender inequality, and shrinking civil space by women's rights organizations that come together to fight for women's rights. Participation and opportunities for women's economic rights, the Power Project that we are talking about, was brought purposefully to strengthen the eco-feminist movement in the 4 project affected areas. And this 27 months project has been running, and we have been able to exceed the target that we initially had of 1,000 beneficiaries to 1,403 people in the 4 districts. And now my colleagues are going to take you through the 3 output areas that we have been delivering our activities in the affected areas. The learning paper that we are talking about, we shall be able to disseminate it online for a brief of the information. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to my colleague, Sustain.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. My name is Sustina Manya, and I work for NAPE, and on the Power Project, I work as the project lead person. Yumi, I'll ask you to share with me the slides. Thank you. Okay, so the Power Project and how it relates to us building women's knowledge around land rights and economic rights is first and foremost, this is the reason why it is important, is that women land rights in Uganda are provided for in the Constitution. But the way they are implemented, the way they are enforced is a bit complex, but also competing. And in that way, some of these rights have not been respected, thus leading to women facing constant challenges in realizing those very rights. How has the Power Project supported these women to realize this? Is that at least 144 women have been trained on their land rights, economic rights, and how to engage with decision makers. And some of these trainings have actually been very participatory in the sense that they are considering women living with disabilities, women with HIV, and other unable-bodied women. We have also held lobby meetings with local and national governments and the extractive industries for these women to be able to protect their rights. And some of these trainings have touched, for example, the environmental and social impact assessments so that women can be able to understand those provisions. Additionally, we have also been able to develop and disseminate at least 4,000 leaflets, which are on women land rights. And as you can see the picture on the left, it is two women in Amuru who are sharing and reading a leaflet. And some of these leaflets have also been translated into the local language so that they can be better understood, but also user-friendly. We have also gone ahead to ensure that we capture some of those insights into learning reports so that we are able to share their stories more broadly beyond the communities that they are in, but with national and international audiences. Next slide. So what are the key changes that we have realized or we have seen? Is that one, women individually and collectively have resisted rights violations. As you can see, some of the pictures giving you that message. They have also collectively organized and developed and agreed on advocacy messages and actions. As you can see, one of the pictures with women with call to action messages to their policymakers. We have also realized tangible changes in practice by all companies, including women participating in compensation meetings and others. We have also established or even strengthened women advocacy groups, but also the emergence of the concept of the land queens. Land queens are change makers in the community. They support to raise awareness on where women can seek help and support when it comes to issues of land rights. Lastly, what lessons have we actually learned? Is that once women understand their rights and their value, and once they are facilitated to understand the structures and organizations that can help them to realize those rights, then there is a fundamental unlocking of the power within, which is a process that is difficult to reverse once it is done. So we call upon you to support and be able to engage in furthering gender equality by investing in this process of unlocking. And lastly, grassroots women and women's groups, when their focus or when their advocacy is localized, taking action on issues related to their families and their communities, this level of engagement is extremely powerful and enabling and very necessary. So in order for us to be able to lift the impact of that work to effect policy and practice at county and community level and other programs, we need to intentionally build in networking opportunities and spaces which bring local women groups into more direct and consistent contact with higher level duty bearers. Thank you so much for attending this event. And I'll now call an amazing land queen who is also a beneficiary of the Power Project, who will be taking us to the next presentation. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Grace.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Grace Kiasima from Hoima. By Power Project, I learn about women land rights. From there, I put up in action. I started teaching the community how they can get their land rights and where to get support, especially in the areas of oil and gas. Women were seriously affected. When they were compensating, they did not consider them. When I joined the pipeline meeting, I explained so many problems those women in that area they are facing, like not compensating them, not giving them enough time, and yet they are mothers now. And people with women with disabilities were seriously affected. In some families, they don't consider women with disabilities. So I also teach them about their land rights and how to come up, stand firm, or to own their land. Like I grace through Power Project, I learned about kitchen gardening. I've been practicing it for home consumption and selling to get money for other use. So I advise women, especially with disability, to work hard and get money for supporting themselves. I thank Power Project for supporting women to know their land rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you for being with us and sharing that. I'm going to hand over now to Christine from NAWAD.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, those who have joined in, who are not in Uganda. My name is Christine Buliisa. I am working with NAWAD as the project coordinator for the Power Project. I'll take you through output 2 that looks at strengthening women's resilience through economic independence. And in the Power Project, we looked at women who are displaced or at risk of displacement by land acquisition. And we have improved knowledge in alternative livelihoods. And why we take this as important is because women bear the burden of feeding and supporting families. And most frequently, the land acquisition processes leave them without access to traditional livelihood sources. So as the Power Project, how did we support them? We trained women on eco-friendly business options, which included vegetable gardening, beekeeping, craft making, and millet value addition. And here we trained 408 women. And we had a guide that was designed by NAPE that we all followed across the 4 districts. And even choosing the livelihood was dependent on the district business opportunities. So also on that note, we also supported women set up or strengthened individual and collective businesses. And we've seen up to 360 women who have alternative livelihoods. We have also seen the women share experiences with other community women through the community green radio. And from the feedback sessions we get through the call-ins, the community radio, this has inspired other women to join in, and we've seen the groups of women grow bigger in size. Also, the women connect and learn from each other through solidarity exchanges. We have held this within and beyond the 4 districts to further build the eco-feminist movement. Next slide, please. And the key changes we have seen in this project, we've seen women have formed and strengthened their small collectives. And we have up to 15 small businesses. We have also seen tangible benefits to women's income. to a note of 10,000 Ugandan shillings to 50,000. And here it brings economic independence, where women now are not dependent on their spouses for the needs for the household. So this gives a woman financial independence, which is great. And also, as a key change, beekeeping was previously seen as a man's job and labor intensive, but through the Power Project, we've seen women pick up and take on beekeeping. As you can see in the photo below on the left, we have our beneficiary in the apiary farm. We have also witnessed women cascading their knowledge, creating amplifier effects. And we've seen this being done in families where the skills are passed on to the family members, to the other group members. And also we go to the lessons. What lessons have we learned? Intentionally, the political nature of livelihoods training made an impact. Women understood and acted on their rights in a more holistic way. And in a holistic way, we mean we did not only train the women on the alternative livelihoods, but we also taught them about their land rights. And this we really captured the holistic way. We have also seen that women, once they are given the skills and tools, they act. And in this, we see that women, they didn't wait for the project to give them the resources to start. Through their village savings, they mobilized resources and started up the small businesses with the skills that they acquired. And also as a lesson, we have seen collective action. And this has the power to fuel women's voices and galvanize their strength to challenge power structures. So as this, we've also seen grassroots women groups grapple with discrimination and hierarchies, as all movements do. But we understand that collective actions means galvanizing the challenges of group dynamics, which require responsive interventions and budgeting, such as also leadership and conflict resolution. So thank you so much. I will take you through a video so you can listen in from the voices of the women as how the alternative livelihoods have empowered them. Thank you.
Project egyo gyejumbira bakabanza kutweta twajja hamusomo twasoma omulingo tusemereire kubaho n'emboga ezahaka eziratuyamba kutugarura mu musahi n'omulingo gwona kali n'amagara g'omuntu kuba garungi nalya tinkyarare njara tinindeba n'abaana bali kurungi n'okunyira ntandikire kunyirira hati bwire buno kyonko mukubyo ogunyagulimire obwo 10 nkuchwakagora nemuguza kabeji mbaire nzine hano ninsaraho nemuguza nimfunamu akasente kogura omunyo hamwe n'esabuni kuruganya nyayega omusomogo kwegesa ninyegesa abantu buli omu wena nimwegesa kusigikira n'omulingo nzine hazigati yange hamulyango gwange nkega omuntu wadoyine itaka litito okusaa kubyaraho omukubi nobyaraho n'ebyokulya nobaho nk'omuntu kandi nonyirira kurungi kandi n'amagara gawe nigaba gali garungi.
Amazina nditwikirize Ana ndi chairperson wa group eretwa Kigaga twimushe women's group turashangwa Hoima district nyowe nkatunga ho kwetwa banapi batushomesa batwejesa hakulise njoki kutwarugira hamushomogwe twayija twaronda bakazi bagenzi bitu kurwa mu byaro birahukana twakora group y'abakazi abetereine turi bambaye 15 bwahati twakora imizingeji ya roko traditional beehives twakora piare tekiroleka turikubana ubugabe bw'abakazi bagenzi bitu hamataka no kwereka ngo abakazi betereine twagira signpost era tugambaho kutuhandikirwa na district era tumanya turi kurwanira ubwabe bw'abakazi turi kurwanira kurakurana y'abacara mu maka gaitu mukimusira kalyitu kulangwezesha umucara nawe alemera mu ofisi yona agambe bamuhurikize.
I'm called Nekesa Judith. I'm a woman from Yegopino Women's Group, and we are based in Nwoya district. My experience since I was involved in the power project, at first we were called in Anaka. We were trained in the advocacy. And from that advocacy, we came to know our rights as a woman. We were trained on making the doormats. We were also trained on beekeeping, and we were trained on baskets making. And we are trying to make these ones, and we get somewhere to put them and start looking for the market for it. Okay, to our side of Yegopino Women Group, it has contributed positive changes. In what way? Right now we know how to make this. We didn't know how to make it, the doormats, and this we are also making it. That is where we shall get income to support ourselves. And we got the skills of also beekeeping. We didn't know about it. Okay, these materials we got from, we joined up as a group. We go and work in someone's garden. After working, they pay us that money. Then we put it together. We go and buy the materials. We have shared, like, I have here Pio Kevin. She didn't go for the training, but at least we came and shared with her. She can now make these doormats. We are asking from the Power Project to continue supporting us women.
So, thank you so much. I would also call upon my colleague, Precious.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good morning. I'm taking you through the output number 3 of women standing up for their rights. And this power project has done it through providing legal advice for women affected by land rights violations. And why is this important? Like other speakers have already said, women are dependent on land and they do majority of work on land, but then their ownership is not clear. It is often contested by both family and wider society. And away from that, their knowledge on women's legal land rights to land is so limited. So what has the Power Project done? One, by supporting women through mobile legal aid clinics. Under this, 142 women, people were supported in land disputes, resolving cases, and also supporting others to continue the next legal steps. And you have realized that out of this, around 87 cases were filed. Another thing is training community-based paralegals. These were trained to provide sustainable knowledge on how women can resolve current and also future cases. Then another slide, please. What are the lessons learned? What are the key changes? 17 of 87 cases were resolved within few weeks of filing. Training 20 paralegals, 5 per district for sustainability of the even after the end of the project, and also providing support to women who have filed cases and also enable wider reach than just standalone clinics. And on top of this, more 46 people have been inspired to seek legal advice or investigate the possibility of legal action through sharing their success stories and also making use of community-based paralegals that were trained in these 4 districts. And soon Power Project Power will support 10 women in the North to get clear land ownership certificates to mitigate the rising cases rising land-related cases. And even we have also realized that there is institutional change where, for example, Uganda National Roads Authority manager can go on ground and talks to women and tries to investigate the complaints that are filed. Then what are the lessons? Next slide, please. The lessons learned. We have realized that it is very expensive to maintain a lawyer. So as power, we have realized that training community-based paralegals is helpful. Investing in a training local mediators might also help to unblock less complex cases, which may not need to go to court. And we have also realized that there is need to transform traditional customs and norms that promote discrimination against women before delivery of justice. And also in Uganda, there is a need to invest more in cost-effective legal structures, for example, justice centers and FIDA to refer complex cases. In the West, for example, we have recommended cases, cluster action cases for litigation, but now because of money needed and a lot of time, we realize that there is a challenge there. Thank you so much. Now I hand over to Jennifer Owek, a very strong community-based paralegal that has been trained. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Precious. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone who is attending. My name is Owek Jennifer, a trained community-based paralegal from Repayetero Group in Amuru. This is my experience with Power Project. I received training on advocacy. I also attended advocacy events in Buliisa. I also attended advocacy events in Hoima, sub-county, in Amuru. I was also trained as a community-based paralegal. I also attended a training on local alternatives livelihoods. I also had exchange for local alternative livelihoods. And all this made me also to attend the second and third National Women Land Rights Conference. And with this information that I got from the trainings that I attended, made me to have enough information on women land rights. And when I went back, I was able to educate my fellow group members on their land rights, what they're supposed to do to make sure that they protect their land from being grabbed. And also we were able to form ourselves with other women who are in the group. We started sensitizing women in different places like churches, like the markets, on their land rights. As women, they can have their own land, not depending on maybe their family land or other land. We educated them on the procedure, the path that they should follow in case their land are grabbed. And we were also able to educate them on many things that they can do to make sure that they stand firm, because most of the women, what is so common with them is that they like keeping quiet because they have culture of silence. They fear that when they talk, they can be challenged by the men. So we were able to talk to them so that they stand firm and fight for their land rights. Now, right now, I see a number of women from our group who are able to come up. They can now talk for their land. They can now approach the community leaders in case of land issues. Most of the women right now, they are able to get their own land because even in the livelihood training, they introduced us into basket making. They introduced us into mat making. And this one, we were able to sell the baskets and the mat so that we get income for the group, but also at individual level. So as the group, most of the groups were able to get money, and this money, they are using it as rotational saving because in our area, they always say that men are the breadwinners.
But in reality, from here, we see women are the ones supporting the homes, the families. So if we improve their income, this will also make it possible for them to attend to their kids, because education is always on women, clothing are always on women, and even feeding. So the income that the women are getting is really helping so much. So the Power Project has enabled women to save enough money so that they are able to support their families. And also, the Power Project has given women ground to stand firm and break the culture of silence that they were having. Right now, our women can no longer bend down their heads when it comes to land issues. That is what I support. That is what I thank the Power Project so much for saying. Now, as a community-based paralegal who was trained, I handled a number of cases, but one which was very difficult, but at the end of it all, it became successful, is the one of Lakwet Millie. Lakwet Millie is a 43-year-old woman with 5 children. Lakwet, after the death of her husband, the brother-in-law decided to turn our home into a family burial ground. After several times, the brother-in-law could not come to an agreement to give back the land. But when I went for a mediation as a trained community-based paralegal, the man was able to understand, and the land was given back to Lakwet Millie. Thank you, that is my experience.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing that with us with so much passion. It's wonderful to hear your voice. We're going to go straight into a video now.
By name, I'm called Tio Jonathan, and right here you are at Justice Centers, Uganda. I've been involved in the Power Project right from the beginning. I remember when you're introducing this project, you approached this office for benchmarking, and you're interested in knowing how we have been dealing with women, handling their issues. Of course, there are changes. I'm one of those who has appeared on your community radio, Green Radio, and I've always had an opportunity to sensitize the masses using that radio. When we see a trend in the number of women coming to the office seeking justice, almost equaling almost the number of men, for us that is it says a lot. Of course, previously we had women, but they were coming over issues to do mostly with the children. The children, oh, my husband is not providing for my child, and so on and so forth. But we realize a new trend whereby we see women coming out, sisters coming out and accusing their brothers of taking over the whole estate of the family. They have not been included, and so on and so forth.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fiona. So I've been supporting the Power Project as Womankind Worldwide's Impact and Learning Advisor. And I'm going to be just sharing 3 cross-cutting learnings from our experiences. I think we've had a huge range of experiences shared so far. So the first message that we wanted to share and that we really experienced through Power is that movements and women's movements need flexible funding, especially during a pandemic. So as women's rights organizations, NAPE, NAWAD, and Womankind, we know the value of flexibility so that we can support diverse women's priorities, which do change. The world is not as predictable as a fixed budget and a log frame. And with COVID, we found obviously just so much more uncertainty, a multitude of challenges from regulations on meeting sizes to health concerns of coming together, sickness across the teams. So we really had to do a lot of work to balance the dynamic changing priorities of the women that we're accountable to, with also being accountable for donor commitments on timeframes and deliverables. So within Power, we did have some flexibility from our donor who gave us an extra 3 months to implement the project. But obviously there was always invisible work in that type of approvals. So that's been a learning area for us as organizations about the type of ways to have flexible funding. And we've also shared those messages back to our donors as well. The second key learning adaptation for us has been Power has been an opportunity for us to rethink how we gather and advocate as women's movements. So our original vision for this project was that we would have large gatherings where lots of women from across 4 districts could come together to share knowledge and tactics on how to secure women's rights. But we had to adapt this for COVID. It wasn't possible anymore. So instead, there was a big shift and women really took the lead in very localized village level gatherings. So a real bottom up strengthening of the eco-feminist movement. And coming from that emerged land queens and community paralegals that we've heard from in this session to really support these groups and to have that role of connecting women's groups across different districts. And the third experience we wanted to share, sorry, there's a little bit of echo. Okay, I hope you can hear. The third message we want to share was about our experience of partnering with disability rights organizations, which is obviously really important regarding the intersectionality of the women's movements and the strength of having diverse voices in the movement. And we found that partnering with organizations like the Hoima Blind Women's Association was really important to help us to invite all types of women into power spaces. But we did also find that disability inclusive venues were very few and far between, and that was an ongoing challenge and an area for continued advocacy as organizations as well. So those are 3 of the learnings that we wanted to share, and I think I'm handing back over to Jennifer now for some quotes for more women who've been involved in the project. Thank you.
These are some. Thank you, Fiona. These are some of the quotes from my fellow women from the community. May I return thanks to NAWAD firstly, because they gave me as a widow the strength to be the owner of the land that my deceased husband left with me. I am filled with happiness because of that. For oftentimes we widows, once your husband is dismissed, the people of that family chase you. Now I have the power to speak over the land that my husband left me as well. Well, all other properties that he left. Aluku Esther Nwoya. Advocacy training opened my head. I should go out and advocate for myself or another because I know where to go. I know that I have a right to control land. I have a right, even as a woman with disability, to get married. Akelo Vicentina Amuru. Before Power and NAPE, we did not know about our rights at the husband's home. The men would sell land without our knowledge. Women would just be told to leave land by the buyer, saying, leave this land because it has been sold. But now we no longer accept to be witness to land transactions. We insist on being recorded as equal to the men. So when the Resettlement Action Plan 5 of Tailenga project came, I stood my ground. I no longer had the former fear. Now have a joint account, and if he tries to cheat me, I know where to go. Judith Bayroth, Buliisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for giving voice to 3 more women from the Power Project. There are many more such quotes in the Power Learning paper. So yeah, I think they're really powerful. And we'll end the presentation session by hearing directly from yet another woman. So over to our tech support colleagues for that.
I am Leonia Okelaisa. I am the chairperson of United Women's Group Ngwedo. And in our groups, we are 30 members. Out of what we have learned from NAPE, women have come up on their feet. Women are being involved in this program of oil and gas, including me. Now women can stand on their feet, even asking questions and answering questions when they are being put forward to them. Now, even as our group is registered, we are trying very much to come out and learn and teach our women about land rights, so that when time comes, we shall be ready to face any problem put forward us. When you have registered your group, it is already an open way for you to reach anywhere you can. I've seen some changes, because among us, there were some women who were not even able to just address themselves. Now they have the capability of talking in groups. Even when called, when we are not in the group, they can represent something in public without shame. This meeting, the meeting I was is.
Hi, Piyumi. Can you hear us?
I can certainly hear you. Let me just make sure that we can also see you. So while I set up the Q&A session, if you can spotlight our sisters in the room, let's see. It's a bit dark. So we know you're there, but it's very difficult to really form much clarity. Is there any way we can get a little bit more light in the room, do you think, sisters? There we go. That's better. That's definitely better. So we appeal to our attendees to just bear with us. There we go. At least we know that all our sisters in Uganda are in one space, as you can see, being very respectful of COVID-19 health precautions, but really a lot of power with everyone being there together. So we're going to go into the Q&A swiftly now, and we will start off with Elizabeth Breeze, who has already asked us the question, but she's happy to ask it directly. Elizabeth, if you want to direct it to anyone in particular in the room, and if not, I would suggest that we start off with either Sostine or Christine and then open it out to anyone else in the room to add to it. So over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, for your presentations. Sorry, I haven't got a video of me, but it was really interesting hearing your different roles and different things you've done. It seems to me you've had an enormous challenge getting your voices heard, and you're doing a huge amount. But I wondered how much you're aiming to and able to get men on your side too. We had one presentation from a male lawyer, so that they can join you in your advocacy. And you know, it's much more the whole community that the men are coming along with you, because I feel then you've got even more scope to do, you know, look your independence and everything else. So really it's just asking, are you able to bring men on board, and how are you doing it? Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Can we take more questions and then answer them as we go? Piyumi?
Certainly, that's a good idea. Is Goretti Amuriat happy to speak, or should I read out the question?
Please read.
I'm happy to speak. Can speak. I even have another question to add. Thank you very much.
Go
Can
ahead.
I speak?
Go ahead, please do.
Okay. Thank you so much for that project. It's really a great project. I love women. So basically, when I see things concerning women, I get excited. Thank you so much, NAWAD. Thank you so much, NAPE. Thank you so much, Womankind. This was a very good project, especially for us in this country like Uganda. Yeah, but my first question goes to the panelists. I think those who shared all the outputs. I wanted to know how did they identify
we are losing you.
Those women beneficiaries, how do they get them on board? And now, hello?
We lost you for a few seconds. Could you repeat the question, please?
I'm asking, how did you identify the beneficiaries of the project? The second question is about inclusion, how inclusive the project is. And the third question is about M&E. I didn't hear, because if we are looking about the changes in the women, maybe you tell us basically what you use to assess the changes. So I was interested to know about the base for the testimonies. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Goretti.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll take the last question and then my colleagues will also answer. How did you identify the project beneficiaries? Absolutely, in 2018, we did a research called Digging Deep, and this research gave us an idea of the magnitude of the impact that is going to happen by this displacement. But later on, when the Power Project was also initiated, we also did a baseline, and that baseline assessment also took us to those very communities, and we identified the women that are supported in this project. And most of them are in areas where oil and gas mining is happening, agro-commodities and land plantations are happening, but also it is the rich resource area of the Albertine region, but also the northern part of Uganda. And then also on your second question, what we use to access this kind of milestone or journey is that a number of very project particular tools have actually been developed. For example, when you look at a tool about women that have been inspired to take on legal action, I think it was an amazing tool to be able to know which women are actually piquing interest to be able to take legal action on their own after being inspired by the legal aid clinics. When you look at the community green radio tool, that is also another tool that has enabled us to be able to track change. And also when you look at tools that we're using in our activities, if it is activity reports, if it is snowballing tools, all those were enabling us to know how many women we've touched and the level of impact as well. Then also commenting on the question from Elizabeth about how much we are aiming to do in able to see that men have joined us in our advocacy. I think for us, we still acknowledge that we are really working in a very patriarchal, structured kind of community. And one of the things that we have done is in my presentation where I talked about the issue of attitude change, making sure that some of these men are actually involved both at local level, family level, to understand and be in the appreciation of women's land rights. So it's not that we are leaving the men behind, but we are also seeing the line between working women being able to work with the men alongside them, which we think will be a long journey, but we have also made a contribution, because when you look at the road elders who are a very patriarchal clan head coming on board to support these rights, then you think we have done our own contribution. But I'll ask the rest of the team to do a contribution to those questions.
Thank you, Sostine. Maybe if I could just add on what Sostine has said, we've had some men also involved and participate in our activities. And mainly, as you said, it's a patriarchal society. So even the community structures we have been using are led by men, from the lower levels up to the district. So we've engaged with men, and they have also come in as support. As you see, we also work with people with disabilities. So you find the support to the beneficiary is a man, and we've usually taken on them, and some of them have actually benefited from our trainings as male beneficiaries. Although the margins are small, but we have
involve them in our projects. If we come to numbers as well, like providing legal aid services, we have around 21 who benefited, and even paralegals, we have community-based paralegals, we have around 2 are trained. So we have some are involving men, though the numbers are very good.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks, Goretti. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you, sisters. I hope so too. There's one more question from David Kuriba in the chat. I see your hand up, David. Are you happy to ask the question directly? I will read it out in the meantime because of challenges with Wi-Fi possibly. So let me read it out, and in the meantime, we can enable your mic if you're happy to engage. The question is, the Power Project from the presentations has excelled in promoting women's rights to land, as well as resolving domestic conflicts. Great for family sustainability. What I would like to know from this project, which is currently working in less than 5 districts out of 135 districts in Uganda, how are the proponents of this project planning to replicate this good work to other districts also facing land grabs through oil palm, ECOP, among others? So it's a question of how we're hoping to scale up.
Thank you so much, David. I think you're bringing in the element of sustainability, and I think we saw that come up in our presentations, that the structures we have set on ground. I remember in my presentation, I talked about if you unlock the power within, it is so hard to reverse that. So for me, the structures we've set in place, like the land queens, the community-based paralegals, those are also structures of ensuring that actually the work is carried forward, even when Power Project has ended. However, that said, my colleague Precious also talked about some of the pending cluster action cases. And we hope to ensure that some of these practices and also some of these cases are actually fundraised for and make sure that they're also concluded. But also we talked about tools like this power learning paper, for example. This is a paper that is going to be disseminated nationwide, international-wide, and we think that some of these lessons can actually go to the other districts that are in Uganda. So we appreciate that question. Thank you so much, Dave.
But that aside, you have also been using community green radio as a platform to disseminate further the work we are doing in the north and the west. So we are trying to make sure that our work does not only focus on those areas, but even outside other districts. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So we have a couple of other anonymous questions that have come through, which I will read out. The first one, it says, you talked about the challenge of adapting to COVID-19 and reducing the number of people you would bring together at any one point. Did that disrupt your ability to really strengthen the eco-feminist movement? As in my mind, that usually involves connecting people to each other. That's the first question. I will just ask 2 more to help out with flow. The second question is, you mentioned that affordable access to justice support is lacking in Uganda. Who are the other actors you could connect with to advocate for this? They say, I imagine this is not unique to Uganda. And the final question that's come through is, once the Power Project funding runs out, how will the women's groups who have started on livelihood work be supported with addressing any challenges? Where will the funds come from? So again, a little bit of the sustainability piece.
All right. Does anyone want to go first? Okay, I'll start from the last question around sustainability. I think we already touched a little bit of how we see our work happening even beyond the 27 months of the project. And we have a strong feeling that the already established alternative livelihoods can also generate money so that that generation of that money can be reinvested in the groups. But also the paralegal from Amuru, Jennifer, also, she talked about the savings. And I think that savings can also be able to sustain the groups as the women produce the products, they pack them, they find market for them, they start to really register like business women companies. So that's where we think sustainability will come from. Then other actors to connect to the angle of legal aid clinics. I think we are going to strengthen our partnerships and conversations going forward with people like FIDA and other free legal aid services that we have in the country, but also in the East Africa arena. And then the first question around COVID-19 and connecting women in the movement. I think my colleague Precious already talked about how the community green radio came in as a handy tool to work within a COVID context. That even if other people were at home, but we are able to bring in women that have success stories, and they could be listened over by very many women and other communities where the Power Project has actually been working. But I also think the structures established in the community, also when I talked about localizing advocacy, I think it is the conversation that happen at household level, but it is also the conversations that happen when women are walking to go and fetch water. It's also the conversation that happen when women are carrying products, taking them to the market. It's also the conversations that are happening when women were actually doing the farming, because COVID-19, I think in farming, there's social distancing. So for me, that takes me to that arena that they're still in a conversation and building the movement as this part of the conversation. But I'll ask my other colleagues to add to my answers as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for that. I also want to put this forward. Just like I mentioned before, the money that we are able to generate, that most of the groups are able to generate, are not used at individual level, but we always use it as a group, because that money is there. Once a group member has a challenge, you can borrow, you use it, and then you bring it back with the interest. So that interest keeps accumulating to help anything that may come up. Like specifically for my group, we are looking at having a piggery project, and we already had 2 piglets. So we want to because we were also given seeds under the kitchen gardening. Now we have the seeds in the garden. Now we are looking at getting what we are going to get from that seed, maybe the income we are going to get from that. We want to have like more pigs so that this becomes something for the group. And this one we can sell, and it will help in so many ways. Even when the project is no more, the group can still keep using that. I know other groups are also doing the same.
Over to you, Fiumi.
Wonderful, thank you so much, and really useful insight coming from you as well, Jennifer. That was really helpful to get that personalized input there. We have another question from Chris, Genovese, who's happy to ask it herself. So over to you, Chris.
Hi, thanks so much for the presentation. It was wonderful to hear all the different voices and the stories from the participants of the program. My name is Chris Genovese. I work at the SAGE Fund, which is a small collaborative fund in the US. We support human rights in the global economy, projects that advance human rights in the global economy. And I was interested in some of the references that you made to the participants engaging with corporations, oil and gas corporations or agribusiness corporations, and that there had been some changes in the practices of those companies. And I was wondering if you could share just a little bit more about what those engagements look like, what the changes were from the corporation side, and whether this was something that happened in all of the 5 areas that you were working in, or just in a few places. Yeah, so just wanted to hear a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. I think we all understand how mammoth we look at the corporates and also when they work under government. But one of the most changes that we've been able to realize is that, for example, in Buliisa, there is the establishment of the oil infrastructures, roads, oil refinery, and others. And now the company that has been recruited to do the compensation has actually been inviting both the wife and the husband to meetings. So which shows you that there is some change that is happening. and even at the stage of signing for what type of compensation packages they are going to receive, because they always give them options, it is cash or land. So you see that they all have to agree to receive one set of compensation. And if the other party is not agreeable to that, then the company sees that as a pending case. It is work in progress, but we've seen that happen. And I think for us, we see it in a district like Buliisa. We think the next phase will also happen in Nwoya. So I would like to acknowledge that as a change in practice, which we want to uphold, and also mention that power has actually contributed to that change. Thank you, Chris.
I think I can also add what Sustin just communicated. We have a live example in Nwoya where there's an electricity company that was displacing women from their lands. And recently they were giving an excuse of women did not have bank accounts. And the project supported women to get bank accounts that was with the project team, but not with funds. And right now, women are getting their land and they are getting their compensation and are evacuating the place and moving where they feel better to go to. So I think that was a very huge contribution as far as the power project was concerned. The participants, how we have been engaging them, we have a live example of the Hoima community that is based in Amuru. We have not been working with this community, but one of the paralegals that attended the paralegals training that we conducted got a communication from a person based in this community, and they raised our attention. The project team came together and thought they should go ahead and support this community. So collectively, we just asked the community paralegal to go ahead and mobilize for participants to come in and join voices, collective action. And we had a very big, massive march. And we also had a bicycle caravan, motorcycle, that led to the district, and district leaders were very much willing and were aware of the cooperative union that was affecting these women, but they just needed a push to get more information about what was happening in the communities from the angle of the indigenous people. So this was very good, and that is how we do it.
Thank you. Over to you, Kiyumi.
Wonderful. Thank you, sisters. So I think we're literally down to the wire, but we have one final question that we can and will entertain. I will read it out. And I just ask you all to perhaps have a little think, and maybe each one of you can think of one response to this if you want. The question is from Perut Atukwase. I apologize if I've ruined your name, Perut, in the process. The question is, thank you, Power Team, for the project and presentations. Could you please share some challenges during the course of the project? So if I ask that we keep it to 2 minutes tops between us.
I think I'll go first. I think first and foremost, Uganda has done the power project during the electioneering period, when internet got shut down, emails got shut down. And I think that was one of the disruptions that actually we faced because we couldn't communicate with our partners, also our colleagues in London. So I think there was some time that was lost along those lines. And also, as everyone knows, it is obvious the impact of the COVID-19 and how we haven't been able to do some of the work because some of the quotas were lost. And we are extremely grateful for our donors to be understanding and to give us extensions. And we are also always facing challenges of the shrinking space, because I think now in Uganda, for you to be able to work in different districts, you actually require to have MOUs and all those things. But we are so glad to our legal team as well that enabled us to get those memorandum of understandings to be able to operate in those districts. And also it goes without saying that we are working within a very patriarchal, male power dominated community, that when you, for example, we hold some of the legal aid clinics, especially in the North, you would find that a man who is a perpetuator wants to escort the woman who is the client of our legal aid clinic. And this goes to Jennifer's response where she was talking about the culture of silence. And that silence would either make the women not to give all the information, or it would even be corrupted by, oh, what you're saying is wrong. I did not do that, you know? So it is those kind of challenges that we face, but also we are living an era of climate change. So districts like Buliisa, where some of our communities are, there was part of the Albert Lake that actually flooded, and we knew that some of our communities were there and some of their properties also got destroyed. But also when the rain comes, it comes very heavy that it washes away property. And then when also drought happens, it happens in a way that the area gets dry. And some of the kitchen gardening kind of practices that we have put in the community, they really require a lot of water. And I think one of those challenges was coming from the communities, but we were able to find a way of handling it. Yeah, thank you. And my colleagues can also add.
I could also add on what Sostin has said. Our project really was affected by COVID, and this has been seen through our work, especially the legal aid work. Some of the cases we are not able to complete them due to delays here and there in the government structures. Meetings are delayed, like the courts were closed. So we have not been able to continue with the litigation cases. So as our project is coming to an end, we because not from our own making, but we didn't have that opportunity to meet the responsible structures to be able to help the women with the cases. Thank you.
Thank you, sisters. Thanks so much for that. I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up the Q&A discussion portion. We literally have a couple of minutes left. If anyone is absolutely desperate to leave, please do so. But we do have a few more minutes of our time together where we want to really close with a call to action. Before we do so, though, we wanted to take a moment to really acknowledge the contributions of Patience Murumuzi, who was the executive director of NAWAD, and she sadly and very unexpectedly passed away on the 7th of November this year. So I want to make some space now, and we've agreed that Christine will represent the team in saying a few short words in Patience's honor, as we really thank her for her contributions, and we hope she rests in peace and power. But over to you, Christine, to honor Patience's memory.
Thank you, Power Sisters, and everyone joining in online. I would request us to have just 2 minutes of silence before I can say anything about the ED. Thank you, sisters. Just as Yumi has said, on behalf of NAWAD and the Power team, with great sorrow, we really we lost our precious ED, Mrs. Patience Murumuzi, on the 7th of November 2021, and this has it created in a lot of depression and mourning, and we are still in terms of mourning at the organization. But with the team spirit, we've been able to be here today. Patience Murumuzi was among the pioneers of the Power Project. She was here from the start of the Power Project. She participated in the planning, in the designing, and in bringing this project to life. So she was the coordinator of the project in NAWAD, and she has thought us through, she's mentored us through, and she has brought everyone working on NAWAD on board on the Power Project, because she was among the first people who started that project. And for us here, we would like to remember her as someone who loved women, especially at the grassroots, who would always fight for women's rights and always fighting for environmental justice, and how her contribution has greatly made this project a success and has brought in the teamwork that we are now between NAWAD and NAPE and the Womankind Sisters. So we thank you all, and may her soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Christine. I know that wasn't easy, and indeed, may her soul rest in peace and power, I would add. To end today, I want to thank everyone, all my sisters who are there in that same room in Uganda. We wish we were together, but alas, COVID won't really allow that. Our call to action really is to download and read the full paper, Solidarity Through Sisterhood. The link is provided here. If you just Google it, hopefully you should be able to find it. All three partner organizations also are always willing to get some support. So if you know of supporters who want to, please do to look up our websites and donate. And within the paper, there are lots of, I think, meaningful, actionable suggestions that you can take on board yourself as well as spread the word on. So we thank you again for your time today and for your generosity of spirit in being here with us. And we say goodbye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye. From Uganda, everyone. Take care. Bye. Everyone should remain there.